As near back as the last century, this big backyard still seemed rather harmless and bucolic. Here in the shade of the Shawangunk Mountains, we lounged in the hammock with crickets, peepers, birds chirping, wild turkeys gobbling, deer nibbling grass, the occasional garter snake slithering under the wheelbarrow. A wholly benign landscape to laud over our friends in the big, dangerous cities. But then, perhaps as an omen of things to come in a world growing tamer and wilder each day, our pastoral summer idyls began to be pierced by howling coyotes, fisher cats, shrieking like little girls, that terrible, beyond thinking yelp of bunnies caught in some carnivore's incisors. And then the first bear, a 400-pound male, lumbered across the backyard as if he owned it. In practical terms, I know that bears are less a threat to limb and life than the occasional rattler slithering down from the rocks, or the copperheads under fallen trees, or lime ticks. But for those whose connection to the natural world ends with the Discovery Channel, please know that a black bear standing 7 feet tall, reaching for birdseed or berries, is a daunting, jaw-dropping sight. And unlike snakes, he won't slither away or, like deer, scamper for the tree line when you open the door, or when you bang pots and pans, or when you stand as tall as the ranger advises to make your own territorial stand. Like the most arrogant of overgrown, muscularly arrogant inhabitants of your nightmares, he won't even flinch. If you're not food, you don't exist. If you are, best to stay inside. Indeed, we sometimes find ourselves trapped in the house, noses pressed to the glass, pondering the seismic shift that has occurred in the way we regard our time in the woods. I am a teacher and a writer, so half of each day I work inside this civilized oasis of cinder block and wooden joists, double-paneled glass and fiberglass insulation, sheetrock, and art on the walls. This gash of an intrusion into the forest. To some degree, the work that I do is to use the tools of civilization to get myself back to the primitive wordless understanding of what it means to walk upon this earth, and then try to translate it into narratives told in a pitch that humans can hear. If I don't get back into the forest, I know the work will be flat and uninteresting. Writers who write without an understanding of what lies beyond the intimate tree line might as well be writing Saturday to-do lists, which is precisely what I do after the bears return each spring from their caves around Bonnecue Crag. Bear-proof the garbage bin, check. Elevate and reinforce the posts that hold the bird feeders, check. Bring in the feeders each night, check. Let the dogs out whenever the grandchildren are playing in the backyard, check. Figure out how to protect the goldfish in the small pond from becoming hors d'oeuvres, check. Hang the hot dogs and marshmallows from high branches when we camp out back near the stream, check. Lock the doors before we go to sleep each night. Living in this narrow ecological DMZ, where the sounds of natural selection punctuate our nightly dreams, I now know that this house is nothing more than a fallen tree, that the lawn is merely a clearing full of food and danger for all who enter there, that we share the gurgling stream with creatures who, after all these millennia, still don't accept the notion of our dominion. That the weekend work I do to keep the animals out must be abandoned Monday morning when I must invite them back in. Thank you.